So we don't like messy, do we? Or at least I don't like messy. I don't like a messy bedroom. I don't like a messy kitchen. I close my kids' bedrooms' door so I don't have to see the mess in their bedrooms. But we don't like the idea that God has anything to do with anything that is less than messy. And we equate that with less than holy. We think that God should only be kept in the department of neat and presentable. And I think that we have been taught that. We've been taught that our focus should be on getting into heaven, because that's neat and that's tidy. And here are the rules to do that. And I think especially that when we look at stories in the Bible, one of the stories that we want to be unmessy is the Christmas story. We want a Christmas story that we can put on the front of Christmas cards, that we can decorate our tables with, and that we can use as a nice children's pageant. And so, yeah, we want our faith to be the same way. Just, there's the end goal. Get to heaven. Keep it tidy. Because anything in between is just too messy. Except that when we do that, I think we're missing the point. Because God's holiness doesn't keep us from being with God in the messy. God's holiness steps into our messy. God's love is what moves towards us and all our complicated stories. And I think that's what Matthew's gospel is teaching us about the birth of Jesus the Messiah. Right away, he begins with this very simple message. Now, the birth of Jesus the Messiah took place in this way. And then he tells us Mary is engaged to Joseph. And it sounds like it's going to be this sweet romantic story where two people who are in love gaze fondly at each other and they walk into the sunset. Except that there is a big but. Now, I've told you about big buts in the Bible before, and I think this one is a big but, because Matthew, right after that, says, but before they lived together, she was found to be pregnant. Oh dear. They were engaged. But engaged isn't the way that we think about engaged today. Engaged isn't a picture on Instagram with one person on their knee and the other one joyfully receiving a ring. In Mary and Joseph's world, engaged would be a contract agreed upon by two families. It would be a binding marriage already. They would be considered married, a formal arrangement that said you were meant to be with each other and nobody else. From that point on, you were seen as husband and wife, even if you weren't living with each other. So to end it, you didn't just simply take the ring off and toss it back in the person's face and spin around and walk off. You would be divorced, and that would carry a lot of shame. So when Mary is found to be pregnant during that stage of their engagement, it looks like she has broken a sacred promise. She has dragged not just herself, but the two families into question in a way that is dishonoring and shameful. It's not just awkward, it's scandal, it's real danger for her and real fallout for Joseph. And it's messy. And so Joseph responds with fear. Now, he's a righteous man, so he is fearful that he is breaking God's law, that she is breaking God's law, and he takes the law very seriously. So if he stays with her, his own reputation is at stake. His honor and his good standing in the community will take a hit. Not only that, of course, he's feeling a little betrayed. A lot betrayed. He's personally betrayed and unsure if he can trust his own judgment or hers. Marrying her would mean choosing a life of permanently being tied to scandal and whispering by the neighbors, gossip, and extra responsibility. So Joseph does what he thinks is the least hurtful and harmful thing for everybody. He plans to break it off. He's going to quietly leave Mary. He's going to step back from her. He's going to disengage. He's going to protect himself, protect his family, and protect Mary to a degree from the worst kind of backlash. The problem is, while he's not going to attack her or make sure she gets punished for being pregnant, not by him, he's not going to attack her, but he's not going to stand by her either. This is the way the birth of Jesus the Messiah took place. Not a sweet love story, a frightened man planning to walk away from an extremely frightened woman who is vulnerable because he cannot see any other way to protect his integrity and his reputation and hers too. I think many of us know the feeling of wanting to walk away from a difficult situation. When somebody's actual situation gets close to our real life, it might affect us, and we might want to step in. But there's also this other voice that rises up inside of us. This is going to be too messy. I can't deal with this right now. This helping out, stepping up, is going to cost me my reputation. It's going to cost me my energy. It's going to cost me my time. I don't want to get pulled into this right now. I don't want my life to be tied to this. I don't want to help right now because as much as I think I should, it's just not something I want to do. And so like Joseph, we quietly plan to distance ourselves. We find the reasons why we should not help in that particular situation. But the amazing thing I think about this story is this is the point in this story when God steps in. God steps in right after Joseph has decided to leave Mary. Joseph isn't still debating whether he should leave Mary or not. He isn't still writing down his pros and cons list. Joseph has already decided he is leaving her. And that is when God interrupts. An angel of the Lord appears to him and says, Joseph, son of David. David is not his father's name. Calling him Joseph, son of David, points to his ancestry. The angel is reminding Joseph that, yes, this situation is difficult right now, but you are part of a bigger story. Your fear is real, but your fear right now in this moment is not the entire story. Then comes the center of the message for him, because God knows what Joseph is afraid of, and so he says, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife. Do not be afraid to be there for Mary. Do not be afraid to stand up to the scandal. Do not be afraid to stand up to the scorn that you might receive. Do not be afraid to stand up to the gossip. Do not be afraid that it might take more energy than you hoped for. I like that he specifically names what Joseph is afraid of, because sometimes we think God won't understand or can't name our fears. He is saying, don't be afraid to stay connected to this person whose life looks dangerous and shameful, because it might make your life dangerous and shameful. Don't be afraid of what it will mean to stand beside her publicly, even if it means people will go against you. That's a difficult ask, isn't it? Don't be afraid. God is already showing Joseph, however, that God is already at work in this world. He isn't just telling Joseph, yes, stand up with a brave face and go for it. He's telling Joseph, God is already here with you. This child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. The very situation that Joseph wants to run away from, God is saying, no, the Spirit is moving here. God is moving with you. You are being asked to stay with Mary, but you're not doing this alone. I'm holding you up. God is holding you up. And so Joseph is told, take Mary home. care for her, provide for her, name the child and give the child a place to be. Let his life and let his reputation become a part of the way God protects the fragile and the messy from the very beginning. We don't want the Christmas story to be messy. We want it to be sanctified. We want to make it all glossy. And yet, from the very beginning, it is packed with mess. God is there with them in all of that mess. Matthew reminds them that all of this is what God promised long ago, a child called Emmanuel, God with us. God is with us right in the middle of the messy story. And God, from the start, has been with us, upholding us. And this is not new. You've now said and heard this a few times already today. Isaiah 41 shows us that the same God who is saying Emmanuel is with us, the same God who is saying, I will be there in your mess, the same God who is saying, I am coming into the mess, is saying, do not fear, for I am with you. And then he repeats it. He says the same line that the angel tells Joseph, do not be afraid. Why? Because I am your God. And don't be afraid. You don't have to have your own strength to not be afraid. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand, which in biblical times was a sign of strength. Your right hand was strength and power. From the very beginning, Emmanuel, God with us. This is God stepping into the fear of real people and saying, I am with you. I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will uphold you. But the birth story tells us God is upholding us so that we can uphold others. And so I want this to be your takeaway today. In our fear, we are held by God, and we are sent to hold one another. That's not new. God is never only about us and focusing on us alone. God has always called us to be a blessing to others. We are blessed to be a blessing. That is part of the narrative of God's story. We're not just to focus on getting into heaven for ourselves. We are meant to be in this mess, being held up by God and holding up each other. It is one of the main ways in which the good news has been spread. Lately, I've been hearing that we're meant to spread the good news and then, if we have time, help others. That's wrong. The good news is holding up others as God holds us up. So Matthew, the other thing about Matthew that he does that I want to look at is that Matthew makes it sound like Joseph has an instant turnaround. Joseph has decided that he's not marrying Mary. He has this dream. He wakes up and obeys. And it sounds so instant. But how many of you have felt the decision as instant as Joseph? I think that there was a lot of contemplation in between there. I think there were a lot of long nights. I think there was a lot of tossing and turning. I think there were a lot of thoughts that Joseph had to go through. I think this conversation with the angel was one too many and was the deciding factor, and he went, okay, I am called to help Mary. I am called to be there for her. I'm called to walk through this mess with her. Now, you might hear Joseph's story and think, I don't have the capacity to do this. I cannot take on anyone else's fear. I am exhausted. I can barely manage my own. And I'm saying that you might think that because sometimes I think that. If you are here because you feel exhausted, if you are here because you think you cannot uphold yourself, least of all anyone else, then understand the order of this story. The first move in this story is not Joseph, shame on you, you should be a hero. The first move in this story is a very important one. The first move in this story is God saying, Joseph, I am with you in this. You are not alone. This will not cost you anything that I will not be there for you for. The same God who says, I will strengthen you, I will hold you, I will uphold you, stands with Joseph in his fear. Don't be afraid to take this step, because I am already with you. So whatever fear you have brought into this room today, however much you might want to run away from whatever is holding your mess, whatever mess you are in, whatever mess someone you know is in, from your own life, your own story, your own call, you are not abandoned to figure that out alone. As much as you feel that way, as much as you feel your life is a mess and Christmas is not about mess and maybe I should hide my mess, that is not the Christmas story. The Christmas story is mired in mess. But the Christmas story also says you are held by God. You are upheld by God. You are in good hands. Because, my friends, God's holiness is not fragile, and God's holiness does not get contaminated by our mess. God's holiness is powerful enough to step into our mess and bring healing to it. And the same God who holds you in love also sends you in love to uphold others. This is what God with us, Emmanuel, looks like in practice. It won't mean holding everyone and fixing everyone. Joseph didn't even fix everyone. But one person in one moment is what God is asking us to do. You place your life in God's hand and let God overlap your life with them. I'm sure someone here is carrying something heavy. I'm sure someone here has a story, if they share it, might make somebody uncomfortable to hear it. Sometimes it's easier to avoid people than talk to them. Most of us already have a name in mind when you think about somebody who's going through a hard time. Maybe it's yourself, maybe it's a loved one. Maybe you've been doing what Joseph did at first, slowly deciding to back away quietly, to keep a safe distance, to wish them well, but from afar. What would it mean then to let Emmanuel, God with us, to interrupt that plan? You will not be able to fix everything, but when you stay, when you hold someone for a moment instead of backing away, your presence becomes a sign of that good news. It's a living sign of that good news that God has not walked away, that God is upholding us, that Emmanuel is with us. So again, if you remember only one thing from this morning, let it be this. In our fear, we are held by God, and we are sent to hold others. We are in God's good hand. For this is the way in which Jesus the Messiah was born. Amen? Let's sing.